Hello and welcome to another landscape photography editing video. Today I'm gonna take this raw file and gonna teach you in depth how I turn this into something like that. Quickly before I start editing, if you haven't done so already, please be sure to subscribe to my YouTube. I make about 3 tutorials every single week. Alright, so what we've got here is a beautiful picture from Portree on the Isle of Skye, where you can see these little houses and the Portree Bay, shot at around sunset. As you can see, the highlights are very bright, so I'm definitely going to bring down the highlight slider to recover some of the detail in the sky. I don't want to do this all the way because it kinda looks too much. That I definitely want to raise the shadows just so we get a lot of details in the shadows. You can see the dramatic difference here. Then I'm definitely going to bring down the blacks a bit just so we have a little bit more contrast again that we've lost through raising the shadows so much. I'm gonna leave them there. To the whites, I'm definitely gonna bring up the whites. I'm gonna hold down the Alt key and see wherever they clip and just leave it before they clip because I don't want any clipped highlights. Then down to clarity, I'm really not sure in which direction I want to go with the clarity slider. I think I might even go minus a bit just so we get a bit more of this fuzzy and soft looking feel rather than a very harsh look like that. So I'm definitely gonna bring it down just a little bit, minus 30. Then in terms of contrast, I think I'm gonna add some contrast, however, definitely not too much, just a hint around there. Then to the color temperature, I think I'm gonna warm this up a bit, the whole scene. I think that works quite well. However, I don't want to overdo that just now because I might add some split toning later. So I think I'm just gonna stick at around 7000 for now and move on to the tint. I'm definitely gonna add some magenta just because it's the sunset and magenta works absolutely beautifully for sunsets. So I'm just gonna add some here. And then down here at the vibrance and saturation, if you would want to move any of these sliders, I definitely suggest you to move the vibrance slider because it adds color more subtle. However, for right now, I don't think I want to add any color here. So let's go straight away down to the tonal curve. I'm definitely going to bring up the highlights just to add more dynamic to the photo. I'm not gonna do it too much for this particular case, and as you can see, it makes the sky even brighter, even though it's pretty bright right now. But we're gonna fix that in a second with a graduated filter, and you'll see that the highlight slider really has a huge impact to overall dynamic of the picture. Then two lights, I might even bring that up just a little bit as well. Then the darks, definitely don't want that kind of look, so I think I'm just gonna leave it at 0 and reset them by double clicking on it. Then shadows, actually I like the look of it when I bring down the shadows, especially in those trees right here, so I think I'm gonna go down a bit here. Okay, so I'm done with the tonal curve. Let's just straight away grab a graduated filter and bring it over the sky here. Then I'm definitely gonna bring down the exposure a bit, something like that, and maybe even bring down the highlight slider here. You might ask, why would I increase the highlight slider down here at the tonal curve, yet bring it down in the graduated filter? Well, reason is the highlight slider and graduated filter and on the basic adjustment really just affect the overall brightness of the image, while the highlight slider down here at the tonal curve just adds exposure to the very bright parts of the image, which results in a lot of dynamic. So they're two completely different sliders. Okay, so I'm back at the graduated filter. Just want to figure out how much exposure I want to decrease here. I think I'm gonna stick with around minus 0.40 for now, and I think the sky already looks pretty good compared to before and after. So let me close the graduated filter and move on to the HSL tool. I could play around with these colors here. What I would do is just go to hue, saturation, and luminance separately, click on this little dot right here, and just drag it over a color in the image that I want to change, and then just bring up and down the mouse. However, it really hasn't a huge impact on your picture, so I'm just gonna leave that out in this photo. However, if you have the time, definitely play around with these sliders, especially if you're still learning, just so you see what they do and what impact they can have. Alright, so I'm gonna go straight down to split toning. I'm definitely gonna add some color in the highlights, at least I think so. So let's play around with different colors and saturations. This slider, or rather this tool right here, will just add some color into the highlights of the picture, which often is very great for especially sunsets and sunrises, where the overall color already is pretty colorful, but you just want to add some more color into the highlights, perhaps a different color than there already is. I think I'm gonna add a bit of a mixture between orange and red here. Here's at 0 and here's at plus 25. I think that works quite well. I might even bring that a bit more to the right towards the orange, and I like that even better. Then down here at the shadows, they do the exact same thing as the highlights, just for the shadows of the picture. So if you would like to add some color into the shadows of your picture, you can do that here. However, I don't really use that slider, or rather that tool, very much, because I feel like the highlights do a much better job and are way more useful in a lot of the cases. However, I might even add some orange here for this photo, just to kind of give it overall a bit more color. These two sliders can have a very big impact to your photo if you don't really have that much color, and I suggest you to play around with the split toning right here first before you just play around with the vibrance or saturation, because vibrance and saturation really doesn't add any color, it just enhances the look, the saturation of the color that is already there. So I definitely love split toning, a really amazing tool. Down here at the detail module, I'm gonna zoom in 1:1 and see if there's anything I want sharpened. I usually would add some sharpening, however, because this is a sunset picture, I don't want to have this over sharpened. I'd rather go for a very fuzzy and kinda soft feel, so I'm not gonna add any sharpening there in this case. However, there's quite a bit of noise in the picture, especially color noise, so let me get rid of the color noise first. For that, just go into the color slider and move it to the right until all of the green and purple sensor noise disappears that you often see in the shadows of your picture. Here's a default. You can especially see it in those trees right here, and here's at around plus 60. I absolutely love this slider. It doesn't really affect any of the other color. It really just gets rid of this ugly and nasty sensor noise. So again, to the overall noise here, because we've raised the shadows so much, I actually think I'm gonna add some noise reduction here. Definitely don't want to overdo that. I don't really like this tool usually, because it kind of makes the whole picture look a little bit more plasticky. However, if you have too much noise, you really want to use that tool rather than having a lot of noise all over the picture, and I actually think plus 20 does the job for here. And let's go down to lens corrections. Actually, let me zoom in right away. First thing I'm gonna do is go to color here and remove chromatic aberration, and just look at this greenish purplish line on this hill right here, and how it suddenly disappears when I click on this little box right here. So definitely an adjustment you want to add in every image, really can only do good to your photo. So let me zoom back out again and go to profile, enable profile corrections, and choose my lens, in this case the Canon 18-55 kit lens, and it will get rid of all of the distortion as well as the vignetting of the lens. However, I feel like I'm gonna bring down the vignetting just so we have a little bit of vignetting, because it works quite well for a lot of the pictures. However, the distortion remove definitely is a great thing. Here's without and here's with. So we're already done with the lens corrections, so down here at the effects we can add even more vignetting, so let me try that out. It often helps to add some vignetting because it kinda drags the viewer's eye more towards the center and less towards the edges of the frame, which definitely is a great thing in a lot of cases. So I think I'm just gonna add a little bit here, like -15. Here's without and here's with. It really helps to get a bit more attention towards the center. Then let's go down to camera calibration. Down here you can change the different camera profiles, so I'd suggest you just to go through them, and if there's anything you like better than the standard, just stick with that. I mean, that doesn't look bad, however I feel like it's a bit over the top. Camera neutral, that doesn't look bad, but perhaps I like the Adobe standard a bit better. This one kinda changes the color too much, and that's a bit too dark, so I think I'm gonna stick with Adobe standard for this photo. Again, if there's something you like better, just stick with that. Then what we've also have at the camera calibration down here are the primary color sliders. Unlike the HSL tool up here, they can have a huge impact to your pictures. Sometimes they don't have a huge impact, but still, be sure to play around with these sliders. And other than the HSL tool sliders as well, for example, if you play around with the blue hue slider right here, you can see how it changes the greens completely and also the yellows, so they can also have impact to your other colors, so that's why they can have a huge impact. Because this process is very heavy on the CPU, and additionally to that I'm recording, it's probably going to lag, so what I'm gonna do is just speed up the footage of me editing these sliders and jump back once I'm done. Alright, so I'm back after messing around with these sliders. Here is before and here's after. Just everything looks a bit more vibrant and a bit better in my opinion. Of course, how much impact these sliders will have will always depend on the picture itself. Okay, that said, I am done with the global adjustments, so now what I'm gonna do is the local adjustments. First thing I'm gonna do is definitely grab a graduated filter and just drag it over the bottom of the picture right here, and then I'm gonna reset the clarity here and drop down the exposure just so it closes out the picture. Here is without and here is with. It definitely helps to close out the picture. So the same thing I'm gonna do with this very top portion of the picture as well. However, I don't think I'm gonna do it as heavy here. So I'm gonna bring up the exposure a bit to around -0.60. So I already like how this image looks a lot. However, this part of the sky right here is still a little bit overexposed, so I'm gonna fix that by just grabbing a radial filter, drag it over the spot here. Be sure to invert the mask and then the feather is at 100, and then I'm just gonna drop down the exposure a bit just to get a little bit more detail in this part of the image. I might have overexposed that a bit while taking the picture, so let me just try to save as much as I can. Here's without and here's with. Definitely adds a little bit more. Then a thing that I often like to do is just grab another graduated filter and just drag it over the top right portion. Make sure there's not too much of this portion right here involved, and just raise the exposure a bit just so we have a bit of a difference between the left part of the sky right here and the right part, because the right part is where the light is coming from. So it looks very natural if you make the part where the light is coming from a bit brighter in the sky. Now let me close this graduated filter right here, and the last thing I'm gonna do for this photo is just add some dodge and burning, meaning making individual parts of the image brighter or darker. For that you can either use the adjustment brush or the radial filter. It's really up to you which one you prefer. So in this case I think I'm gonna grab a radial filter here, and first of all drop down the exposure and just drag a filter over this part of the image. Make it a bit bigger. Be sure that the feather is at 100 and you invert the mask again. Very important. Then maybe one over here. Just right click on it and duplicate. Maybe one in the foreground. And I think I am done with this photo. So here's without any dodge and burning, and here's with dodge and burning. Really helps to give a bit more dynamic and interest into the picture. Especially if you have a very plain looking pictures, this technique can make wonders and really change the whole photo. For this particular case, there's already a lot of contrast and differentiation in the lighting, so it didn't do as much of an effect as it would have with a picture that, for example, was taken while it was overcast or at night or something like that. And as always, let's see where we started at with the raw file. Here is the raw file without any adjustments to it, and here's what we've made out of it. Definitely a huge difference to this photo, and you can see the magic of Lightroom and what you can do with a raw file. As always, thank you so much for watching. If you would like to see more videos just like this one and other Lightroom edits, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I make 3 tutorials every single week. And if you've enjoyed this video, you can help me out just by giving me a thumbs up and sharing the video on Facebook or Twitter. Again, thank you so much for watching. See you in the next episode. Have an amazing day.